This week in Arsenal, the Gunners defeat Chelsea by a score of 5-0. Kai Havertz marks his second match back against his old team with a brace. Benjamin White scores another brace of his own, and Chelsea are just so laughably bad. Let's get into it.
Maybe we'll have a good surprise for you.
Welcome in to This Week in Arsenal, episode 53. It is Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, and we are coming to you live after just an absolute demolition derby against, a team who I personally hate just a little bit less than United. They're number 2 on the Sham's most hated list. That was our largest win against Chelsea in club history, and I'm so looking forward to talking about this with, none other than, the man himself, my confidant, my partner in crime, Sash, who you can follow at LT Arsenal. Sash, how you doing, good sir?
Yeah, really good. I could not concentrate at work today because I was just watching the highlights, watching all the content that was coming out after yesterday. Like the game had so many interesting elements to it, like Ben White fighting with Kukurea, Kai Havertz playing like a donkey at times in the first half, and then coming to life in the second half and scoring 2 against his former club. I think the red card at the beginning of the game on Tomiyasu, I cannot believe that was not a red card. So I think it was a very eventful game. Both the sides, I think, were wasteful at times, but I think Arsenal in the second half absolutely dominated and ripped Chelsea apart. But 5-0, I'm really happy. Revenge is finally served for what they did to us all those years ago when Wenger was coach. And I think this victory is actually even more impressive than the 6-0 Chelsea did on us, because remember, Kieran Gibbs, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, it was Gibbs who got sent off that game after 25 minutes and, scoring 6 past the team with 10 minutes. Impressive, but it's not as impressive as what we actually did yesterday. So extremely happy. The title race is right back. I think more than anything, I was really happy with the way we played, like the level of conviction with our performance. There was so many positives, and looking at us play yesterday, I feel really confident actually going into these next 4 games. I think something has to go horribly wrong for us to drop points in these games. So yeah, really looking forward to that. But how about you, Sham? Hope all is good with you too.
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a very busy week. Got getting married on Saturday, so Chelsea. I guess let me say, Arsenal. Thank you for giving me a very memorable final match as a dishonest man. So I'm just it was a lot of fun for me, especially since it's been quite a stressful week, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. And with us to do that is a very dear friend of ours. He's been on the show before. This is the first time he's on the show with both of us, and that is Curran, who you can now find at Curran TOF, which stands for Thoughts on Football, which is the channel and the content that he's going to be launching really soon. So, Curran, how are you doing, good sir?
I've just realized I've not changed it. That's pretty fun. But no, I'm good. I've been out of the country most of the calendar year. It's been a very, memorable 2024, obviously on the Arsenal side, but also for me personally. Congrats on obviously your nuptials, pending nuptials, and all that's going to come for you. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a weird one because the thing is, as much as I loved yesterday and I loved what yesterday represented in terms of just exercising some demons and just really getting to grips with what this run-in really is. There's always the next game, and there's always the next game to think about, and there's always the next challenge to consider. So as happy as I am, as grateful as I am to be witnessing such a such a close, tight run-in, that one game at a time, just get ready for Sunday because Sunday's going to be massive. And then obviously Bournemouth, not City, United, and then Everton. So 4 games. Let's just do what we can, and then whatever happens, happens. So we'll see.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think that's the mentality and the message that Arteta has been really putting out these last few weeks, which is one game at a time. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just focus on the task at hand before going on to the next one, mentally speaking. But I do want to kind of just do maybe like a bird's eye view, 1,000-foot view of what each of us thinks was significant about this match. And Curran, I'll let you go first. Just what was, I guess, your big takeaway from the 5-0 against Chelsea?
That we have decided that, well, not just decided, we have the ability to not let the occasion get to us this year. That's the biggest thing. When you look at yesterday, you look at what yesterday represented. It was pressure. These last 2 games, Wolves and Chelsea, we had to get 6 points. Nothing else would do anything. We have to put as much pressure on City as possible. They go to Brighton tomorrow. Liverpool are playing right now. You have to make sure that you put on as much pressure on them as possible. And if you don't, then you're going to have to pay the consequences. So to go yesterday, Big Six clash at home under the lights, and not just win, but put it on them. Send a message and make people know that we are not going to go away. This is not Southampton 3-3. This is not West Ham 2-2. This is not even December. This is not Fulham 2-1. This is not one of those games. We are here. We have got what we needed to do. We're fairly fit, if not fully fit, for this run-in. And let's see what we can do. I wish there were things we did earlier in the season that could really just this could kind of be the sort of championship procession, as it were. But it's not that, and we have to really, focus, grit our teeth, and get into it. And the main takeaway, to answer your question, would be really to understand that this team is maturing, and this team is not a team that is willing to lie down when the going gets tough. And I think that's the main thing I'd say to take away from this game.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really true in terms of the growth that we've done as a team this season, where I think last year even we would go to Old Trafford and we would play a little bit scared of obviously there was a situation where we went 1-0 up and it was ruled offside, but it has been the case with this team where we would have a really good run, we'd be in good form, we'd look very put together on the pitch, and then we play in a big occasion, something that's been hyped up in the media, and I think the players would just kind of let it get to them and would crumble a little bit. So I think we're still undefeated against the quote unquote top 6 when we've played them this season, which I think is a really impressive feat. And I think we just have 2 more matches left in that regard to go the whole season unbeaten against them. So yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Sash, what was your takeaway?
I think my takeaway was that we can also smash the top sides, and have big scores against them, because in recent seasons we have had some good scores. Even under Wenger, we did have some interesting scores, like 3-0 against Chelsea in 2016. We beat Liverpool 4-1 in 2015. We beat United 3-0 in 2015. But 5-0, I think that's one step above, And 5-0 in the manner that we have done, 27 shots, 10 on target, an XG of like close to 4, which I think is a lot. Like to accumulate 4 XG in a game, it's actually a lot more in terms of, I think, actual goals that you can score out of it, because just look at the number of chances we had yesterday. So I think Arsenal, the biggest takeaway for me is that we can do this to big sides now, destroy them, put the game to bed. Because before, after 2-0, we would sometimes get into a shell, and the frustration would always be, why the hell aren't we killing the game off? You could argue that in the first half yesterday, that, yeah, should they way more than 1-0. But despite that, we came out in the second half and got the job done, you know? And for me, that was the biggest thing. The fact that we were able to kill the game and turn it into an embarrassing scoreline for the opposition. So that's a statement win. If you beat Chelsea 2-0, 3-0, it's okay. People are going to be like, oh, okay, Chelsea are bad. But 5-0, people are going to go like, wow, you actually put 5 past Chelsea. And look, I think Chelsea were also unbeaten for like quite a few games recently in the Premier League. Let's not forget that. They caused problems to City at the Etihad. I think they got a draw at City, if I'm not mistaken, both the times actually. So they can be a bit of a thorn for big sides. But yesterday they weren't. People will say that they had the semi-final in the weekend. But hey, we are also super fatigued. We had Champions League. This is like our 3rd game in 6 days. And for us to go out there and absolutely destroy them, big statement that. So really proud of the way we played and the result as well.
Yep. I think that's a great point as well. Yeah, I think in this match the players kind of realized that there was something more to be had aside from just the win, if that makes sense. I think the players were very much aware of the importance of perhaps the message that you could send by really just absolutely um, destroying Chelsea on in such a public manner. So yeah, no, I think that's a great point. What my takeaway was is and this is something I kind of noticed from the Wolves match as well. We've since the Bayern game, we were really talking about this concept of rotation and whether or not we've overburdened the players physically. And while I do still think that there is something to be said about maybe the number of minutes certain players have featured in, and maybe the lack of involvement for some other players such as Emil Smith Rowe and Reece Nelson. What I noticed from the last 2 games is really just these players who most of us have seemingly convinced ourselves are tired or out of energy, have really found second wins in a way in both of these matches, have really let desire dictate how they perform in matches more so than maybe what their physical levels are. I against Wolves, obviously, I noticed that it was mostly in the second half where players kind of picked up the energy and really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and eventually won it. And then against Chelsea, we went into halftime 1-0 up. A bit of a sloppy first half performance, honestly. After the first goal, it felt like we were getting that final action wrong over and over. Certain players were not making great decisions on the ball, and just overall, we weren't making Chelsea pay for a complete lack of defensive solidity. But in the second half, I think the players really focused up, and like we've seen so often, but I think is more impressive now, they're really defending for their lives at 4 or 5-0 up just to keep the clean sheet, just to really keep their feet on Chelsea's necks. And I think they really have put this conversation of tiredness and a lack of rotation somewhat to bed. And I think I was just really impressed by that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a shout out to 3 players yesterday: Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, uh, and the other guy, Ben White. These 3 have played live. These 3 have played in the last 6 days, 90 minutes in each of the games. And honestly, that's huge from all 3 of them, because to produce, like you mentioned, what they did, they played out of their skin. So yeah. But yeah, we're eating good. I'm eating good now as well. Yeah, fair play to them.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, no, I think it was just really impressive how Arteta has really managed to get the players in that mentality, and I think this is down to Arteta, right? And especially in the wake of the Villa game, there were a lot of people coming out, and the Arteta out brigade, I think, was mobilizing once more. But in my lifetime, I've never seen an Arsenal team this desperate to win. And Curran, you and I are about the same age, so if you wanna correct me on that, feel free. But I don't think I've ever seen an Arsenal team that is so committed to defending leads, is so desperate to win, is just the epitome of a competitive force. And I really think that's down to just the standards and the values that Arteta has instilled in this side. So I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I can think of is, and maybe it's a debate, but I think in the 0102 side, I think that's the one for me that I think that team, you can't write off that team ever. Yeah, I know obviously the 0304 team, obviously they didn't lose. They won the league 5 games ahead, and they still managed to eke out draws when they'd already won the league. They just refused to lose. But I think for me, the 0102 side, the way we went to Old Trafford and won, and the way that team mentality wise was just built, was just power all over the pitch, technical ability all over the pitch. It reminds me a lot of this squad. But yeah, I think those two for me are the ones that are like ingrained into my head. That's the one that I think, if there was an Arsenal team, like if someone asked me what's an Arsenal team, I brought into that 0102 team. I think that's the team for me that really understood what it meant to play for Arsenal. That was how I viewed it.
Yeah, I think I unfortunately wasn't around for the 0102 team, but yeah, I think that's a really good comparison just in terms of that drive to really dominate. And I think that's kind of been the key word for these Arteta teams in the last 2 seasons, especially, and of course, throughout his tenure. Um, Speaking of impressive performances, Thomas Partey came into the starting lineup yesterday, and I think that was his first start since the Luton match, if I remember correctly. Do I have that wrong?
He didn't
I
start
think
against.
even
No,
before that.
it wasn't the Luton match. No, it was his first start in a few weeks.
I think
I should
since the
look.
Crystal Palace, or no, since the Fulham game that
Yeah.
we drew. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, my bad. No, he played minutes a few weeks ago, like because I was looking at kind of his minutes on Transfer Market for a video I was working on, and there's he played about like 45 minutes at one point a few weeks ago. That was probably against Luton or something. But the point is, Partey came into the first team, started first time in a long time, as it turns out, and Partey has been someone that we have been discussing regularly despite his absence. But I was actually, really struck by how dynamic the team was going forward with him in it. And we all know that that's the quality that he brings in. That's kind of his superpower compared to the rest of the side, is his ability to make quick decisions on the ball, pass the ball progressively, really just in one or two touches get the team into the final third and attacking at a quicker pace than we have been this season. So, Sash, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Partey's performance and whether he's done enough to, really stake a claim as a significant part of this team for the last 4 games.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he showed everyone yesterday what we were missing at certain points in the season. And I think Partey's best trait is his ability to play the ball very quickly in between the lines and play it very vertical. Like last season, some people criticized him for it because he was treating the ball a bit like a hot potato. He was just sometimes giving the ball away, rushing it, and sometimes you need to slow the pace down and have the intelligence to do that. And that's why he got some of the criticism. But this season, I think we've seen the other side where at times we have to be quicker when it comes to playing that ball forward. And I think right from the first goal, the pass he played to Declan Rice, it seems like a simple pass, but I think Partey makes it look simple. He plays the ball so quickly, so precise with how he plays that ball, and I think at multiple points in the game you could see he broke the lines. And I think what having a player like Partey does is players around him are switched on, especially the Odegaards and even Rice, who were playing as like the dual tens, and even the others who come centrally, they're all switched on because they know this guy will pick them out and will play that pass quickly. So I think it's a two-way thing. So when Partey plays, players are up for it, and it also helps Partey that when he plays, people know how good he is, and they're all making themselves available. So he showed some incredible qualities yesterday. I thought he bossed Enzo and Caicedo. Like, honestly, they were a non-entity, I think, for all of the game. And yeah, I think Partey showed us all what we were missing. And this was the midfield three that Arteta had planned the season with Partey, Rice, Odegaard. It's such a shame that this was only the first time that three of them are starting together. And we have some good news. And Everton are 1-0 up, so that's good. Let's keep this going. Hopefully, they can expand their lead. But yeah, coming back to Thomas Partey, I think fantastic. He definitely needs to continue playing now. I put out a tweet some days ago that if we don't start Thomas Partey from Chelsea, then we should never start him again, because he's come back from injury for 50 days. And this is probably the most crucial run of games for the club since last season, which is a good thing. But it's a league title we want to win, and even if we don't win, we want to maximize our chances of winning it. And for me, the only way to do that is to have your 11 best players on the pitch. Thomas Partey is our best holding midfielder, I think. Debatable because Declan Rice has different qualities, but if you can play both together, there's nothing like it. One thing I will say though, I think he's lost a lot of his legs. I don't think it's just down to fitness. I was seeing some signs even at the back end of last season where players were just running past him, and it was like I was like, wait, Thomas, are you jogging? Is it a lack of effort? And then it took me some games to realize that no, you're actually like physically really on the decline. But class is permanent. He could sit on a wheelchair and pick a pass. So we know what he can do. We have the ball winner in Declan Rice next to him who can do all of the running. We have Odegaard who will contribute. And I just think he makes our attack so much more dynamic. And yeah, I would definitely look to start him, but very positive performance from him yesterday. Hope he manages to stay fit for the upcoming games. And yeah, I think if he plays, I think we will win the next 4 games. I think he really is that good and that important when he's fit and playing well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of an important caveat to note there, which is he just doesn't seem to be the same player physically, which, to an extent is fine, right? Obviously, it is a bit of a problem, like you mentioned. His performance at the Etihad last season has kind of burned into my mind. But I was really impressed with what he added to the midfield yesterday, and like you said, I think he fits in really well with the rest of the midfield, right? Um, you know, I think he and Odegaard have great chemistry. We saw that last season, and they work really well together, understand each other. But on the left, I think he and Rice also work really well together because Partey kind of has a bit of a right-sided bias, and he likes to kind of like move into that side of the pitch, combines more with White and Odegaard and Saka, and I think that works really well for Rice because it opens up that lane, right? I think Rice next to Partey functions more as a 6'8" than just as an 8, right? So it opens up that lane for him to just, go up and down the pitch, play the offensive role when he needs to, and then come back and sit next to Partey, when we're defending. And I think it is a bit of an upgrade on the Zinchenko partnership that Party had last season, just because you have that guy who can help provide that defensive solidity. Um, and now you can play someone like Tomiyasu, or fingers crossed for the end of the season, Timber in that left back position as well, and you're not necessarily losing too much in terms of our ability to move the ball at the pitch. So I was really impressed by that. I was happy to see him kind of back to the Party that we've grown accustomed to, but unfortunately part of that player that we've grown accustomed to is a guy who's just not available. And maybe that's a conversation to have a little bit later. But that is something that's just been in the back of my mind, especially with a lot of people talking about whether or not we should extend him after one performance. But Curran, I want to get you in here. What? How do you see Party kind of fitting into this team over the next 4 games? And what do you see him contributing in terms of not only how he fits in with the rest of the squad, but the upcoming matchups that we have?
I mean, in terms of what he offers, I think he offers three main things. The first is obviously what Sash mentioned, his ability to pass through the lines from deep, his verticality in passing. He's able to be a tempo maker when we're deep and we're trying to get through a block, or we're trying to get through the lines quickly or in transition or whenever. The second thing he does very well is he switches the play quite a bit from center, especially in the final third. So what we've been missing a bit from when we've been breaking down mid blocks is the ability to switch the play and try to isolate wingers one-on-one, because we're constantly having these 2-on-1s to deal with, because whoever their left winger is, their left center mid, will drift to be 2-on-1, and then you're looking at a left center back or left back, for example, going to the winger, and we're kind of having to go back and round and back and round and back around. What Partey does is, when we're in the final third, his ability just to find people that bit quicker is it's a useful thing to have. However, I would like to point out, and it's not a massive thing, especially because it's his first start. The same things that we saw last season are still there. The inability just at times just to know when to just calm it down. There is also the things, I think, in the first half especially, where they were trying to go build left and then switch right, and he would just try to nick it or try to get the ball back in situations where he was never going to get it back, and they just get beat. And Tomiyasu's one-on-one with Madueke or whoever was overlapping at that point to get them to basically try and get them into the box. And they tried to basically do what Bayern did, was build left, switch to right, and then try to isolate on our left back to get a cut back or a cross in. And they did get a couple of shots off in that first half. And it's not all down to Partey, but you're asking me what he provides, and that is something that we need to. He can't just constantly be looking to step into challenges all the time. There are times when you just need to back off, get into your shape, and then deal with whatever comes. So there is obviously going to be that sort of danger in his game, but for what we need for this last 4 games, we're going to need the ability just to provide something different, because we're going to be playing at these mid blocks, especially with Ange and his high line. The ability they're going to have to try and squeeze the pitch. We need someone just to play over the top or behind them, and that's what he can provide. There's going to be things that I just think that we're going to still have to manage him. I know Sash says you're going to have to try and start him all 4 games, and I agree, but I'm always wary with him. I'm always wary whether he's going to get injured or what could happen. So let's see. I think it's a good start, and I think really, I just think that there's a real appetite to see what he can do. The question is can he just 4 games, Thomas? Please, man, just 4 games. I'm not asking for much, man. Come on, you can do this. It's not that big a deal. Come on. So yeah, if you can do it, then I look, he starts for me. So let's see.
I mean, he's barely played all season, and that's the thing, right? If I'll put it to you like this: if he can't last the next 4 games, then I don't really want to hear any conversations about whether or not we give him an extended contract. Because I think, I mean, even let me pose a question to you guys. If Party came in the next 4 games and did exactly what he did against Chelsea yesterday, and we win all 4 games and we win the league, would you give Party a contract extension, or would you let him go?
So personally, I wouldn't give him a contract extension because his contract expires in 2025, you know. So I would just look to keep him because I don't see him having that much value anyway. He's going to be what, 32 or something by the time, and he's going to only, his injuries are only going to get worse. The signs of physical decline are already there. So me personally, I would just keep him as part of the squad for another season, you know, rather than giving him a 2-year contract extension. At least with Jorginho, I'm more confident about giving him a contract extension because we knew what Jorginho's flaws were when he came, and he was always never that quick. He's always going to be unathletic, but I still think he reads the game better than Thomas Partey. And as Curran mentioned, sometimes Partey just has to back off a bit. I think Jorginho is a little smarter in terms of when to go, when to stay back. So I think Jorginho, I'm more comfortable extending him. But I would look to keep Partey if he does very well over these next 4 games. I would look to keep him anyway, I think, because what's the harm? It's 1 year. Maybe we get a young defensive midfielder in who's trying to adapt to the league. I don't know who it is. And maybe that is the odd game where Thomas Partey is available and you play him and you know what he can bring. It's a bit of a, how do I say this? A bit of like a hedge if something goes wrong. So you have a player like Partey, he can always come in and give us a certain level of performance. But yeah, you also don't want to rely on him, as you mentioned, Sham. So it's about having that balance. If you can get him fit for like 20 games a season where it's super important, and for the rest look to rotate, then it can work. But I don't think Arteta is that kind of coach. I think Arteta likes to have a constant set of players playing week in, week out. So it's a tough one, but I would just keep him anyway without giving him an extension. But Curran, what are your thoughts? Do you see it in a similar way or not?
It's difficult. It's difficult for me because I completely agree. Like my head agrees with you. My head completely agrees with you. Don't extend him. Just let him see out his deal. He's not going to get many offers anyway, especially at his age and the injury history, etc., etc. But I don't want him here. Genuinely, I just don't want him here. Like it's just like I'm tired of having players that just aren't playing. I'm tired of it. I'm not. I can't do it. People know of what people that I like. I like guys like Yusuf Fofana, Onana. These are guys that can do a similar thing that Thomas can do, and I think can do it at a more consistent level. I think Onana's kind of checked out of Everton. They're going to stay up, so it doesn't look like he's not playing today, for example. I think his Dyche has kind of just sort of accepted he's not going to be there next year, and he's kind of just let him be on the bench. So it's tough for me. Like as I said, I completely agree with what you said. If he does stay, as long as he's not extended, I'm completely okay with it. 100%, no problem. I just don't want him. I just don't want him here. That's the God's honest truth. I think that there's going to be things that you've got to just take into account in the terms of the squad building aspect of things, especially if we do see someone like Timber play a good 20-25 games. And this is why it's been so annoying, because these guys were meant to do similar roles in terms of being that sort of base tempo raiser from deep and trying to play the ball through the middle, get us up the pitch, sort of. That was kind of meant to be their role. So to see both of them, not one of them, but both of them not be there for the majority of the season is very frustrating. But yeah, if you had to ask me, I'd say keep. Just don't extend. No extension. That's it. As long as there's no extension, I'm okay with it.
But in that case, were you against Tomiyasu, for example, getting an extension? Because
yes,
I think in terms of injuries, Tommy was is probably
just as
as
bad. Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is with Tomiyasu is exactly the same thing. I'm not going to just be sort of like one for because I like the player, don't like the. It's the same thing. He's not available, so I don't really want to give him the contract. The
Mhm.
only thing with Tomiyasu is he's much younger. So if there is an ability to sell on, say in the summer, next summer, you are keeping that sort of that value high because you're extending the contract. But in terms of like, if it was just plain on merit, he wouldn't be getting a contract either. So I'm not gonna just. It's not one or the other. And the same goes for Emil. Same goes for Fabio. Same goes for all the guys injured this season. If you're not available to play, you shouldn't be getting extended. Like you have to prove you are worthy of an extension before getting extended. That should be how it works. It should be a merit.
Yeah, absolutely. And they play limited minutes anyway. Like there's some of these guys are squad players, and when you're like injured, when we actually need you for those odd games, it becomes that much more frustrating, to be honest.
Yeah, by the way, I love the Onana shout, Curran. And I know you've been a big proponent of signing
Long
him
time.
this summer. Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
I think in terms
Very
of Arsenal, it's I pretty much like I don't like doing the pat you back kind of thing, but I am pretty sure when he started to leave Lille and go to Everton, that was when I was sold on him. I think as a mental profile in terms of just being able to raise your level every year and the ability to receive either inside the block or outside the block, be able to be that sort of long rangey kind of midfielder. I think he does offer something different. But yeah, sorry, I did interrupt you. Go on, Sam.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I just think I think he makes a lot of sense in terms of, what he's able to do on the ball. Like you said, somewhat similar traits to what Party can do, but also the physical profile, right? I think fairly durable player, um, supremely tall, very imposing build. Just another guy who would be very useful for us in set pieces. And he strikes me as a guy, like you said, he's, a little checked out with Everton right now. And a lot of people I think would take that as a mark against him in the mentality column, but he just strikes me as a guy who is ready to go to another place, another tier of team in his career, and those are kind of the players that I personally think you need to aim at when you are entering the market. So he is a guy that I hope we target in the summer. In terms of what to do with Party, I think you guys are right. As much as I would, love to try get 25 million pounds for him, we spent the last 2 summers watching Juventus try to talk us into giving away for a handshake and a double pack of Twix, basically. So the money, the offers, they're not out there. So I think he's probably better. He's worth more to us, at least sitting on the bench and playing in 20 games, maybe 25 games if he can stay fit for that long. But yeah, as good as he is, he's not a durable guy. And I've said that Stephen A. Smith saying so many times, so I'm not going to repeat it directly, but if you are not available, you're not worth keeping around. There's no use to it. So yeah. So I thought that would be an interesting just thing to mull over in this light. But I want to move a little further up the pitch and talk about the guy who, in a match where two of his teammates got braces, he walked away as the man of the match and deserved it. And that is Martin Odegaard. Um, fabulous performance, 2 assists, was once again a demon off the ball, created several chances. There's a bunch of stats flying around today about, the several different categories he is leading Europe's top 5 leagues in for all midfielders. So, Sash, I want to get your take on this first. Just how important to this Arsenal side and how excellent has Martin Odegaard been this season?
I think if you look at Odegaard, there's been a raise in his performance in every season. So when he first came, right, to Arsenal in those 3 or 4 months when he was on loan. People used to criticize him, saying this guy, he has like 1 goal and like 2 assists over 4 months. We don't want to sign him. And then once he comes for the first 2 months in that season, he's benched for Lacazette. He was not even starting for a couple of months. Then he comes in. I think it was the game against United when we lose 3-2. He comes in that match. This was 2021 November. He comes in, he scores in that match, and then he scores against Everton, and then he scores against Southampton. And then we get to witness what Winter Odegaard is about, where for those 2 weeks in December, he's unplayable. And we had the game at Leeds, at Norwich, I remember, where I was like, wow, what a player this guy is. But then there would be some games where he would totally like drift out of it. You'll be like, hey, we need you, Martin, today. Like, this is a big game. We are at Anfield. We need you to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and do something. And at times he was not doing that. But then last season, we saw him take another step. He started scoring goals for fun. I think he scored like, 15 goals from open play last season. I think he took a lot of responsibility last season. Like, we were in a very bad run towards the end of the season. We were playing Chelsea at home. He steps up, scores a brace. There were multiple games where it was Odegaard, the player, who was actually dragging us back into the game. And now coming to this season, I think that's only gone up even further. Like the Champions League game I'm looking at against Porto, we were so bad. The build-up was slow. Porto were amazing tactically. Odegaard is the guy who took responsibility. And the biggest difference with Odegaard is like his huge willingness, like to drop deep and to actually orchestrate play. Like he doesn't really care too much about the numbers. Like he's not. I don't think he's ever going to be like the Bruno Fernandes type of player. And maybe at the start of the season, he was trying to force the issue a bit too much, like press. He was almost desperate. But sometimes you just need to let the game flow. And I think Odegaard, when he gets into that flow state, unplayable, honestly. Like the way he played yesterday was one of the best playmaking performances I've ever seen by an Arsenal player. And we've had some really good playmakers in the past who have done phenomenally well, like Ozil against Leicester. We've seen Cazorla as well when he first came in that season when he was playing as an attacking midfielder. He was incredible. We had a lot of top playmaking performances. But what Odegaard did yesterday was something else because he was everywhere. And yeah, there's always, I guess, a debate to be had. Should he be playing on that right half space where Saka is? Should he move to the left? Or should he just, drop even deeper? There's a lot of debates that are going on. But I think Martin Odegaard will give you a really reliable level of performance irrespective of what role you give him. He really is that good. And there was also a lot of people saying, is he captain material? He showed he's captain material. Like you don't have to shout and show passion and desire to be a captain. There's more to it. And Odegaard does it on the pitch. So phenomenal performance by him yesterday. He only goes from strength to strength. And yeah, he's become a world-class midfielder. That's the reality. He's a world-class player. He's our David Silva. And yeah, he's only going to get better because he's still so young. So the future is bright for him. And I think yesterday was the icing on the cake for what has been a run of really excellent performances by him.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a way for me to disagree with all that. He I just pulled up his stats from yesterday, right? So 90 minutes played, 2 assists, 2 shots, 88% passing rate or passing accuracy, 8 chances created, 0.1 expected goals, 1.39 expected assists. I just think 75% successful dribbles as well. I just think he, really turned on the style yesterday. And, we talk about how he leads the press and, how he's very diligent off the ball as well. But it was really nice yesterday to just watch him slice open Chelsea at will almost, right? Especially for Havertz's first goal, right? I thought that was just, an inch perfect pass. Havertz didn't have to break stride at all latch on to that and take it past the keeper, right? So I just think Odegaard is a player who exemplifies what this Arsenal team are supposed to be about, who exemplifies what Arteta wants on the pitch from all the players. Um, like you said, he isn't this guy who is going to grab people by the shoulders and yell at them, right? He's a guy who's going to lead by example out on the pitch. And it wasn't too long ago when people were talking about giving the armband to Rice when he just walked into the team because Odegaard, isn't this big abrasive personality in the dressing room. And I think he's really proven people wrong in that respect. And I think he might just be the biggest fumble that Real Madrid have ever made. So, Curran, I want to, the floor is yours to, wax poetic about Odegaard and just how important he is to this team.
I mean, the captain thing is an interesting one because I feel that's people more insecure about their own masculinity than it is about the actual team. I don't think that's really a situation that you like. I don't think they see a guy that is putting his hand through his hair and just geeing up everyone, and they just think, how is this guy the leader of my club? I want a man's man. It's just like, okay, cool.
Underrated fan.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of guy. All jokes aside, I think what he does in terms of leadership on and off the pitch, it's quite clear to see. You look at any interview that he does, it's not about him. It's about making sure that we as a team are, we're trying to do the best we can for the fans. That's the thing. If you comes across in any interview, it's about togetherness. It's about trying to keep the team as one and try to block out the noise. And when you look at the success rate he's had as captain, back-to-back league title, challenges, and the ability that he has on the pitch just to dictate us as a team. He's the one dictating the press, as Sash and Sham have both said. He's the one with the ability to drop deep and play inside the block, take a couple of touches, and get the ball out of his feet into the final third. He's the one playing through balls in the final third. He's the one creating shot actions. He's the one doing most of the good things we do on the pitch. And his ability to delay and just make sure that you really have the most amount of time with him on the ball so people can get free, because you have people moving either side. Like if you look, for example, for the Tomiyasu cutback for Saka, he takes the ball, and this was on if you watch 442, he does it very much better than me. Adam Cleary does, and what Adam was saying was, and I agree, is that his ability just to delay the action to the most late as it can get frees up more people, because people are settled and there's movements going on, and they're able to really understand where they can get the ball into the back of the net from. So that's really good. And then in terms of the right versus the left, look, I'm a left guy. I think that from his assists, like for example, the set piece assist against Liverpool at Anfield, the assist yesterday, the assist versus Brighton away, the assist for Trossard against Porto, there's a lot of the assist for Rice versus Luton. Like I can go on and on and on. There's a lot of times of him dropping into that left space and really taking control and providing a pitch perfect ball for whoever's at the end of it. So I do think that there is a reason to have him there. But what I also want to do, and I want to make sure, is that we have the unpredictability to have him either drop deep, be central, be on the right, or be on the left. Because when he's moving and has this ability to pick his own spots, then we're looking at a team that has a creator that's not only unpredictable, but is also allowing for the movement around him to be unpredictable. So if he wants to drop deep, so Saka can get inside and White can bomb on, or if he wants to go a bit forward, have combined with Saka on the outside, or try and get the ball into Hasvertz or into whoever it is on the left-hand side, Trossard or Martinelli or whoever, that's the main thing. He needs the freedom to do what he wants. and I think we give him quite a free license to do that, because I don't think I've seen someone have 2 assists in a game, one on the right and one on the left, and that in a while. I think that's an interesting fact to have. So I do think that he's integral to this team, both in and out of possession, and has the ability to create shots out of nowhere and create chances for those around him. So lovely player, and I hope he's with us for many more years.
Yeah, and currently he is sitting on 20 goal contributions on the season, right? 1 assist away from having a double-double season, which I think is just really impressive from his end. And just the end product that he's bringing, I think, is very underrated, right? Obviously, Saka stealing the headlines in that regard with 32 goal contributions, and Trossard, I think, is at, I want to say, 16 goals in all competitions. No, 15 goals in all competitions. But Odegaard's making it happen at the end of moves as well, and I do think you're onto something when you talk about how he might be a little bit better on the left as well. Maybe that's a conversation for next season, but just really happy to have him as part of the team. And in addition to him, the other guy who I think maybe deserved man of the match yesterday was Ben White, and we talked about how great Ben White is several times before. I think he's having a phenomenal season. Where you know what? Let's do this. Where among Premier League right backs would you currently rank Ben White? And Curran, I'll start with you, but just taking into account just all the abilities and how they would fit into this current Arsenal side, which, I mean, where would you rank Ben White among all the right backs in the Premier League currently?
Let me put it this way, right? Because I can't stand ranking players because it doesn't make any sense.
That's fair.
But I'll put it this way: what right back from this league would I have play for us over Ben White? I think that's the best way to do it, because then you're looking at how people fit into a system, how we can do things differently. The only one I think I would take is Trent. Genuinely, I think Reece James is unable to do simple yoga stretches. I don't think he's able to do basic medical training. He can't do these things. So I don't think that's a thing. I think Walker is just not someone that I would, as good as he is defensively, I would rather have Ben. Who else? Dallo. I've said this many times, and I'm going to keep saying it. Dallo reminds me of Socrates. Like he has the same sort of like I will tackle you type of energy about him. I feel like he's not like there's something about him that just reminds me of. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys remember. We played Socrates right back against West Ham once. And it was it was the biggest sort of like I don't even know how to describe it. It was a funny day. But I would say this season Trent hasn't been anywhere near as available as Ben, and I'm not going to say this lightly. There's not a right back that I want in this league right now. I've said this a lot of times. Ben White is my favorite person at Arsenal. He is my favorite person that plays for our club. I know that's not a popular opinion with non-Arsenal fans, but this guy plays through injury. He does the same role up and down for 90 minutes. Doesn't complain. He's a weirdo, and I love him. That's the way I take it. I will not. I'll defend that guy against anyone. He's just a good person, and he's a really good footballer. And one day when Southgate leaves and all the stuff comes out, we'll know, and then we'll start to move on, and we'll actually understand how people can't deny him. They can't. Even the worst opinions right now are him are our top five right back in this league. That's the flaw. I think if you're saying anything below top 3, I don't agree. top 5, I'm not talking to you. So yeah, I just think that he's just a really good guy, and I'm really happy that he plays for our club.
Yeah, I did a video a few weeks back, kind of in response to Southgate throwing him under the bus and the resulting backlash, and it's crazy the amount of hurdles and tribulations he's really overcome over the course of his career. I mean, this guy played he played every minute of a league campaign in the championship for Marcelo Bielsa, which, I don't think a lot of people understand how demanding that sort of thing is, right? Bielsa is a guy who um he's famous for a brand of football called murder ball in terms of how taxing it is physically on players. And Ben White played every single minute of was it like I think it's a 46 game season,
42.
right? 42. It's a 42 game season, the championship. Oh, yeah, because there's 2 extra teams. Yeah. Um, so it's just, it's incredible to me, kind of the things that the guy will fight through in order to make it on the pitch. And, this season and last, and that Newcastle game in the 21-22 season, the guy was playing through knee issues just to be there. Well, actually, in Newcastle, he's playing through a hamstring issue. Yeah, just a guy who will fight tooth and nail for the badge. And that's something I, will always value. And also, to your point about Southgate, um, it's interesting. His agent came out today and basically said something to the effect of, "You don't know what footballers are going through in their personal lives, so be careful before you comment on them and come to conclusions, regarding who they are as people." So, I don't think we've heard everything there is to what went on in that England camp in the World Cup with with Ben White and Steve Holland and Gareth Southgate. So I think more will come out in that regard, and a lot of people are going to look very foolish. But Sash, where would you which right backs in the Premier League would you take over Ben White at this point in time?
So I agree with what Curran said. I think that was a very nice way, the way he looked at it, in terms of saying which player would you rather have in your team over Ben White. And yeah, Trent comes to mind definitely, because look, Trent is a guy who has won Liverpool Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues playing at right back. Like he can win you a game from right back, and that's just so unique. Like I cannot think of many players who can do that. And the thing with Trent is that he's technically so good. He can invert as well. Defensively, not amazing. But I think sometimes when someone's strengths are so good, it's worth having someone like them in your team. But still, I think Ben White, in terms of his consistency and his availability, there's no one else who comes close to him. And we speak about availability a lot. The thing with Ben is that, as Karan mentioned, that even when he, has like some hamstring injury, like against Newcastle a couple of years ago, I think Rob Holding mentioned this in an interview, that he had like a hamstring tear, grade 2 or something. I'm not a doctor, so maybe I didn't get that right, but something really like,
it was grade 1 or grade 2. That's what Holding said.
yeah. And I mean, nobody plays with that, right? But he was there for the team because we didn't have any other center backs. He had to come in and play at center back, and we lost the game 2-0, which can happen. But people should not forget that this guy is incredibly committed. Just because he's not passionate about the game, like outside of training, that doesn't mean that he doesn't give it all on the pitch. And in fact, I think that's actually a good thing. I think that actually helps him. I think even in our life, sometimes if we're doing a piece of work and after we do that work, we're constantly thinking about that work, I feel like it would affect how we execute it the following day. But the fact that Ben White can easily just switch off and come back, I think that really has helped his game. That he keeps his mind empty after training and then he's back. So yeah, I think he's a phenomenal player, and definitely for me, like one of the best, if not the second best right back in the Premier League. And yeah, and I had a question that I would like to ask both of you as well. And I was just thinking about this because at Arsenal, we've had some pretty decent right backs in the past 20 years. Where does Ben White rank amongst the right backs that Arsenal have had? And I can say since the 2000, so let's say the year 2000, in the last 25 years, like, is he the best right back that Arsenal have had? I think he is personally. Like, I started watching football from the time Sanya was a right back, and Sanya was a pretty reliable player. But I would personally prefer Ben White. I think Ben White is even better on the ball than Sanya is, and I don't think there's too much to separate the two defensively either. So yeah, Curran, what are your thoughts on that? And then after Sham.
I think as a footballer, he's probably the best right back we've had. His ability to invert, overlap, and defend, I think as a footballer, put him on a different level. As a right back, I think Sanya is probably the most traditional right back we've had. Bellerin as well, we can't forget, before his ACL injury, the ability to just recover was crazy. Not going to forget guys like Lauren as well. Great defender, backed up Freddie when we needed him the most. Really, really solid right back. I would say this, as a right back, my personal preference. I don't know. I can't go back how many years. Just from what I know, I think my personal preference would probably be Lauren, just because of the ability he had just to defend, and I can't overlook that. I think as an overall fullback, Ben White has the most complete package, though. Obviously, football's evolved from the last 20 years, and obviously things have changed, and we don't know what a Lauren or a Sanya would be today. So you can't really distinguish. But yeah, my personal favorite, as a person and as a footballer, I think Ben White. But as a complete right back, I would probably say Lauren.
Yeah. I mean, I've not seen Lauren playing, which is why I was not so sure. But yeah, I think for what he achieved, definitely, like, to be part of the Invincibles team is a huge achievement. So yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout. But Sham, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the. I think he starts in my all-time Arsenal team, right? Because he's got the defensive ability of Laurent and Sanya, right? And Sanya a few times played center back for us as well, so I'll say he has the versatility there as well. He's got that attacking prowess that Bellerin had before the ACL. He's got the comedic chops of Abue. I mean, he can really do everything. So, yeah, I think for me, just in terms of talent, and I do think Curran makes a good point just in terms of the moment we are in football and what that requires from players. It's different than what it required for the other guys I've mentioned. But I think with all that being considered, and with the talent and ability that we've seen from White, and kind of again that mentality of his, that warrior spirit that he embodies, I think I'd probably take him over any right back in Arsenal history. And that might be a hot take. There might be some old heads who don't appreciate that, but I'll put it to you like this. I think in 20 years, we're going to look back on Ben White, as an all-timer. And I think when people finally have the time to pick through his games and to really dissect his career and what he was able to achieve as a player, I think he's going to go down as probably one of the best that we've had objectively. So yeah, I think I'd rank him as number one.
And I think that I completely agree with you. And I think, like you mentioned, I think the moment he starts winning, right, the moment he starts like getting the Premier Leagues or a Champions League, I think the way you view players will be different. So when Arsenal were, for example, in that like 7 or 8 year like trophy drought that we had, I used to just view the squad in a very different way. Like, these guys, they will always let us down. But the moment they won that FA Cup, I started to view them slightly differently. I started to look at the players. I was like, hey, this guy Ramsey is such a clutch guy. He stepped up in a final. Look at Cazorla. He scored that free kick. So I think sometimes you have to win. So if we win the Premier League this season, we will look at everything Ben White has done, the consistency he's given. I remember on the podcast as well, Sham, at the start of the season, you used to be really concerned about him getting injured and us, having trouble in that position.
Because
But
he's playing all the minutes.
yeah, and that's what makes it really impressive because he was injured actually at the start of the season, but he still played through it. And I think at the end of the season, if we had to win it, we will look at moments like that and be like, wow, this was amazing. The fact that you played knowing fully well we didn't have depth in that position. So yeah, I think the next 3 to 4 weeks, a lot of guys have the chance to put their names in folklore. So let's hope that happens.
I was so worried about him just because, Timber was out, Tomiyasu was out, Party was out. I would love to have been inside White's head when the last of those guys went down and he realized he was going to have to play
Why did
all of. Yeah, sorry.
why did we play Party as a right back? Like that has to be one of the most stupidest things we can do. Why the hell is he chasing like Eze and players like this? Like why?
I think the idea was to, have more ball progression out of the back, but there is also talk that maybe it was to send a message to Gabriel with his agent allegedly, flirting with a move to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but yeah, it's it we'll probably find out one of these days. But yeah, love Ben White. I wish he could play just a few less minutes. We'll see if that happens next year. Tell you what, because we're over an hour now, and I think we're kind of hitting that point where we should start to close things down a little bit. But I think let's wrap up with just a kind of a chat about what we need to do over the next 4 games to take this over the line, and just what's the most important thing to remember regarding the run-in. So, and I guess we'll do predictions on top of that as well. So, Sash, what do you think we need to do in order to come out of this run-in successfully? And do you think we'll be able to do that?
Yeah, so last season, 89 points won the Premier League title. Man City finished with 89 points and won the league. This season, if Arsenal win their next 4 games, we will be on 89 points, right? Of course, Man City have an advantage that if they win all of their remaining 6 games, they will be on 91. But in all honesty, if Man City win all the remaining 6 games, they would have gone on an insane run like they did last season. And I would just have to say fair play to them for winning it. But I do see them dropping points in at least one game potentially. I do see it happening. Like City, I know end of season they're flawless and all, but I still think that this season they're maybe not the same as they were between Feb and May of last season. I think last season Pep found this formula. He was playing these 4 center backs and he completely changed how Man City play in the second half of the season. But I think this season, Man City, you can get at them. I think if you have a good game plan against them, you can at least get a draw. The fact that United and Chelsea went to the Etihad and actually got a point, I think it tells you that, yeah, City, if they have an off day, they could drop points. And personally, I don't see them winning all the 6 games. I see them dropping points in one. So from our point of view, we can only focus on our lawn. And I think the way the team should view it is forget the Premier League for a second. Last season, I think we finished on 84 points. The aim this season must be to beat that by at least 3 points at a minimum. So let's try to set higher standards for ourselves going into next season. So If we win the 4 games and are on 89 points, and let's say we don't win the league, which I don't think will happen. If we win the next 4 games, I believe we're going to win the league. But let's say it doesn't happen. Still going into next season, we know that, okay, this is the standard. We had an 84-point season. We had an 89-point season. Now it's the time to take things to another level and get over 90 points. It's about progressing year on year. And Arsenal under Arteta have had an increase in points in every season from 2019 to 2020, 21, 22, 22, 23. We've had a steady progression, and the aim should first be to continue that. And if we are to lose the title this time, I would say let's at least lose it with dignity. So if we win the next 4 games and are on 89 points, and City win the next 6 games and are on 91 points, it's 2 points. It's just a matter of 1 game. And we can look at ourselves and be like, we can be really proud of ourselves. But last season, the fact that we threw it away in April and the title race was done by the end of the month, that for me had left a sour taste in the mouth. So from our point of view, it's focusing on ourselves. And I think that's what the message should be. Don't even switch on your TV to watch City. Focus on your own lawn. Look at the teams we're playing. Tottenham, United, Bournemouth, Everton. We are better than all of these 4 teams. I believe that we will create more chances than these 4 teams when we play against them. The key is to take those chances and not do anything silly. Focus on what you control, and we will be fine in the next 4 games. So that's what I will say. I don't want a repeat of Villa, where maybe we got a bit excited after seeing Liverpool drop, and then I don't know what it was. So let's, for a second, hit the reset button and take it game by game. I think that's what Curran said at the start of the podcast, and that's what it really comes down to, as boring as it is.
So, do you think we're going to win our last 4 games?
Oh,
If Thomas Partey is fit.
yeah.
Okay. Curran, what do you think?
Look, I just want to say something very quickly. As important as this season is, obviously 4 games left. We need what I took away from the beginning of this year, and this is what I felt at January 1. Never mind now. This period, April, May, for me is a test to see who stays. And if you want to be in this project, you want to stay in this project, you have to perform now. And I'm looking at guys like Trossard step up, and I'm seeing these guys looking to really understand what it means to play for Arsenal. And this means that you're competing for titles year in, year out now. The project is stable. The project is there. We're not looking at needing to buy 5 or 6 players, although it would be nice. We're looking just to reestablish what we are as a club and make sure that we're looking to compete at the highest level for 5, 6, 7 years now. So stand up, take accountability, and just do your role, because the role, every player in this team, the role is made for them. There's no team there's no player in this team that is like, oh, we're just shifting him in there just to do a job. The 11 that we have out there can win the Premier League if they're obviously City drop a point and then we win our games. But it's time to stand up. It's time to take accountability, and it's time to show that we are not the banter club. We're the club to banter people. That is how it's going to work from now on. So stand up, take accountability, and really understand that there's nothing to be scared. There's nothing to be scared of. You're looking at United; they're losing at 2-1 to Sheffield right now. There's teams here. They're losing, and at Old Trafford as well. So Spurs have got a doggy out. They're playing. They're going to be called off to 15 days. We have to be able to take them to the sword and really put it on them. There's got to be the other 2 games have to be done as much as they can. Just Bournemouth, Everton, do as much as they can. And if that is true, 2-0 Everton. Yeah, it is true, 2-0 Everton. That's a great result for us. So, look, I just think that there's got to be some kind of rallying cry for these last 4 games now, because the energy is there, the squad is there. Do it. Just do it. Do what you need to do, and no one else is going to care, because as disappointed as we might be, if you show up in this run-in, you've done something you've never done in this manager's tenure. So that's it. Stand up. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Right. At the end of the day, the title race isn't in our control right now. Right. And our job right now is to get out there and beat 4 teams that we are better than, 4 teams that we have the opportunity to beat. Like you said, United's losing 2-1 right now at home to Sheffield United, who are arguably one of the worst teams to ever grace the Premier League. So this is the year. If there is a year that we're going to get a result at Old Trafford, this is the year. But on top of that, City have 6 games left. And in those 6 games, they have to go away to Brighton tomorrow. They have to go away to Spurs. They have to go away to Fulham. They have to play Wolves. They have to play West Ham. So, there are some tricky games in there. And yeah, I think they'll probably drop points at least once. But it's Manchester City. Their superpower is being perfect at the end of the season. So it's not really something you can count on. All we can do is give a strong account of ourselves and go out there and play like the team that we watched yesterday. The team that stepped onto a pitch against a Chelsea side at probably their lowest point in a quarter of a century and just, beat the living daylights out of them. So I want to see them do that 4 more times. Like you said, Curran, I think these last 4 games are really going to show us a lot about who Arteta is going to be willing to trust next season and who, might be surplus to requirements by the end of the summer transfer window. In the meantime, Liverpool are losing 2-0 to Everton. So that's exciting. If that result holds, I think it's safe to say they're out of the race. It's just really exciting times, and no matter what happens, I think this has been a season of progress at the very least. Whether or not you want to say it's been a successful season, if we don't go on to win the title, that's a different debate. But I'm proud of this team, and that's a place that I haven't always been at as an Arsenal fan. So yeah, like Curran said, let's go on and be the club that banters people. Let's not be the banter club anymore. Let's save that for Chelsea and United and maybe Liverpool if they keep
I love
playing
that
like
line,
this.
by the way. I love that line.
Let's not be the banter club.
That's a good line.
Yeah, Curran, can we steal that?
Of course you can. That's not a problem.
I also like his quote on the IT case in our group chat. I've seen people in psychiatric wards with lesser issues than IT.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a fairly big. It's a fairly good line.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, we'll leave it there, and we will be back to you hopefully after a win against Spurs. There is a little over 3,300 of you tuned in, which, by the way, thank you so much for being here with us. So if you are watching, please do follow Sash at LT Arsenal. Please follow Curran at Curran TOF. Please follow myself at Shamsdale. You can follow the pod at This Week Arsenal. If you're watching on YouTube, please do like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do leave us a 5-star review. That is, really useful for us to, get the pod out to more people. So thanks so much for being here with us. And, we look forward to talking about more Arsenal with you and hopefully more Arsenal wins. Until then, take care. Don't be a goon. Be a gooner. Don't be a goon. And we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Maybe we'll have a good surprise for you.
All right.